Hi, I'm Eileen Bild, and I am with Hotel Talk. Today, I am so happy to have Miss Laura Staley on my show. Hi, Laura.
Hi, Eileen. Thank you so much for having me on the show. It's a pleasure to be here.
You are welcome. I can't wait to get into our conversation. You have such an interesting background, and uh, I want to introduce you to everybody. Laura is the author of Live Inspired, founder of Cherish Your World, and columnist. Helps people thrive by guiding them to holistic transformations. So Laura has contributed to the book Crappy to Happy, Sacred Stories of Transformational Joy. And I want to start off with a little bit of that story, and then we'll go from there. You had an interesting experience with being on a dating site that didn't exactly go the way that you might have thought or planned. And kind of opened your eyes to living life, a interesting, beautiful way. And so as a result of that, uh, it actually led you to somebody that you created a beautiful connection with. Yeah. And so I want you to share a little bit about that journey that you took.
Oh, thank you. Thank you
You're
for
welcome.
the opportunity. Yeah, I got on this website. I had no idea what I was doing. I really needed a Sherpa guide for website dating. And so when it came to the question about, who you're looking for, I just typed in somebody who will make me laugh. And then when it came to the part about your handle, because you can't use your own name, I sat there and I thought, oh my gosh, I love the poetry of Mary Oliver. So and one of my favorite poems is Wild Geese. So I made my handle Wild Geese, M-O, that was for Mary Oliver. And then I love the number 11, reminds me of a dear friend. At any rate, I quickly learned that you don't put wild in anything with dudes on the internet, because it pretty much blew up the next day. And again, my naivety, right? I opened this one from Passion Play 69 because I'm thinking, oh, he was born in 1969. And, there's an exchange of, information about, hiking in the woods, and do I like s'mores? And he's a social drinker, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, well, I'm gluten-free. I don't eat s'mores. And, and again, and quick, not too long after that, discovered that, oh my goodness, it connected for me, Passion Play 69, oh my goodness, and had that moment of laughing at myself and also going, whoa. And then I met with a friend who was like, oh my gosh, Laura, what? Because I had said I'm gluten-free, I don't do s'mores, but I like chocolate and marshmallows. And she's like, look, you're not going on hiking in the woods with this character. Oh my God, you got to shut down this site right now. Don't you know about Urban Dictionary? And I'm like, Urban Dictionary? What's Urban Dictionary? So she's looking up all the different words he had used, and even the handle that I had used and what it meant on Urban Dictionary. And oh gosh. Any rate, and then I went on that deeper self-awareness journey, honestly, Eileen, and that was really where the powerful work took place of forgiveness, of healing, because I had come off of a 22-year marriage, 2 children, they're adults now. And I just, and they were adults at that time. Well, my son was an older teenager. At any rate, I just Whew. And I was like, okay, I know the wisdom of self-awareness. I know the wisdom of Feng Shui. Let's walk the talk here in a deep and meaningful way. And so I began that process of looking around my house, my physical space. What is here that's unresolved, that's holding, anchoring my past, or a past that I'm no longer wanting to have part of my future? Because I really, really did want so, I mean, there was a point that I really did want to desperately be loved. But then I realized, oh my gosh, I must love and value myself. And so it was really this deep and meaningful journey to valuing myself, and certainly creating those vision boards and collaging and putting up images of couples loving one another and embracing one another, etc. But I really, really had to do that deep inner work to cleanse my heart of resentments, of hurts, as much as I possibly could, and just walk in open-hearted to that event at Singles Mingles. And there was also a gentleman that I did date for a short while, but I was repeating my pattern, and with somebody who just, struggled with his own insecurities as I was with mine. And he struggled to value me, but that was just a beautiful mirror of my own struggle to value myself. And so, he was a good man at the end of the day, but it wasn't a good fit. And I needed to do that deep inner work to value myself so I could be, emanate that loving, I value myself energy out into the world. And then sure enough, magically, it really felt magical on the third date with the gentleman that I met at that Westerville Singles Mingles event, shared that he knew about, that he read, and that he actually read the poetry of Mary Oliver. And I just, it's like, what are the, what? You can't, I mean, all the dots and all the, and then I think of the Rumi poem where, lovers don't meet, they've been in one another all along, something like that. And I love that, because that's been the ongoing experience. It's rich, it's meaningful, it's the best, most self-aware, emotionally healthy, healthy, spiritually healthy relationship I've ever been in. And it came from doing that deep work inside myself, as well as with my physical space. It's a both and journey. So
Well, that sounds like a beautiful going from kind of unaware to aware. So I have a question as you were talking, and I was kind of piecing together that path that you walked down, and so I'm going to ask you, going into the dating arena, and and
it's
you know,
terrifying,
it's
actually.
terrifying. I know, right?
It really was.
Like, what am I getting myself into?
It's like vulnerable and terrifying. And so, sorry, I didn't mean to
That's
interrupt
okay.
you, but it's like, yeah, sorry.
Okay. So if you think about, where you were spiritually and emotionally going into that arena, the aha that you had from that short experience, and then what, where you took yourself, or what the shift was from the place you were before you went into that dating site that allowed you to connect with the gentleman that you're with and you met at that singles meetup? Because I'm thinking something shifted, something changed,
Oh,
and I'd love for you to share. What was that? What did it feel like? What did it look like? What did you go through?
yeah. Well, that's such a great question. So I actually heard this interview about a woman who wrote the book 21 Days to Your Love of Your Life, and she really focused on forgiveness and self-love. And in this book, and I loved the interview, and I got the book, and I did 45 minutes of journaling every single day, and I love to write. And there were these 36 questions, all about meaningful, emotional, thoughtful, even playful questions about, what would your love be if if your love was a flower, what would he be? But then also, the love of your life, what's his background? What does he look like? How does he treat you? And it was like, and I cried and cried and cried, and I poured out in what some might say a projection of exactly like who I was and what I really desired. And I took the gloves off, Eileen. I really did. And I kept putting self-aware, self-aware, self-aware at the top of at the beginning of almost every question. No matter what the question was, I started out with, I wanted self-aware. And of course, the self-awareness, I mean, I was on a trajectory. I had done a lot of work on myself. And yet there's always more to do. There's even more in this moment. Like I caught myself interrupting you and was like, oops, just because it's my commitment to really deep listen people. But at any rate, it was through that process, and also an experience I had with next level trainings, a discovery, breakthrough, and then the Vision Impact program that I got to, in a group of people, have others kind of reflect back to me what they saw as my gifts, what they saw as maybe, things that I could work on or become aware of, because, in a compassionate and loving way. And it was great because I'm just curious. I get to see all these characters inside of myself. And so I think those two things combined richly created this incredible shift inside of me. There was a very meaningful conversation I had with a coach. I'll forever be grateful for Elba. She just guided me right back to the home in my soul. And I was bawling and feeling so much gratitude for coming home to my own heart and to my own being, and was beginning to really deeply get my value, because for years I didn't see myself. I didn't feel safe, first of all, at the core of me, and I also didn't feel valuable. I felt like I had to earn my right to exist. And so when those two things really, that shift happened, where I saw that I was safe in my soul and that I had value deep inside of me, and that deep connection to what I love calling the inner fly on the wall, that part of us that's like the inner witness that just watches us we hear ourselves, we feel ourselves, and we're just able to bear witness to ourselves and other people from kind of this voyeur, which as I said, like calling the inner fly on the wall. So all those things combined to really support me. And then I also had two gentlemen in my life who continue to be just incredibly dear friends, who accepted me exactly as I was. And there's something about being affirmed by beloved ones, men, women, who just hold the mirror of the treasure that you are, and they just see you precious in their eyes. And so that ability to see myself as precious in my own eyes was part of the shift, because I think I'm pretty good about seeing the gifts in others and looking for the good. And I've like trained myself, okay, there's got to be good somewhere, even when somebody's a little crunchy, right? I'm like, no, I'm gonna find all the treasures in this other person. And it was like, oh, okay, I get to do that same process for myself. What I've gotten so good about doing with others, how about, doing it with myself? So, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, that was a lot.
It was a lot.
Oh, that was great. That was great. So a vision came to me as you were speaking, and I've seen this before, and I can't recall if it was from work that I've done or for a client or somebody else, but I saw like this, like unzipping, and you stepping out of that old persona, and you left that, and you just were walking out into that new person that you've become. And that's the vision that came to me, which was so cool, right?
Oh, that's so beautiful, Eileen. It makes me think of the movie Cocoon,
Mm-hmm.
where they have their, human bodysuits, but then they're just these glowing beings
Yes.
inside those human suits. That's so beautiful.
And
Thank you
that's,
and that's what it's felt like. And it just,
yeah.
continuing to step into that.
That's
That's wonderful.
beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, because I saw you getting taller as you stepped out. It's like you became bigger,
Oh.
right? But that
Yeah.
that core light just has blossomed, which is awesome. So that self-revelation, self-discovery, um, it sounds like it opened a door to allow that match of who you are to connect with someone, in the case this gentleman, to be aligned with who you have become, which is your authentic self, right? So
Yeah.
there's so there's no trying to make it work. It just automatically happens, the relationship. I mean, we're still human, but there's still gonna be, challenges. He's a male, you're a female. Men from Mars, women from Venus. But I think when we do take that time to do that self inner work and really heal those deeper wounds and the parts of us that we know, we just haven't honored, that when we do, it it brings a stronger sense of peace, right? A
Mm.
stronger sense of
Oh,
feeling like you belong now, and that it's okay to be who I am.
oh, yes.
I said it perfectly, right?
Yes, you did. Yes.
Well, and that's gonna bring me to, you've created this beautiful synergy and this beautiful relationship with yourself and with this gentleman. So I want to shift now to the work that you do, which I love Feng Shui. I've studied it a little, and I have a friend that Feng Shuied a part of her house, and every time I walked in, it's like you get hit with this energy of it's different, and it invites you to come into that space. And anytime that, like, I have to buy a car, or we recently last year purchased a new RV, and I had to walk through it to make sure it felt right for me. So, when in your feng shui practice, you talk about self-awareness, self-discovery, connection between the heart, your space, and the quality of life. But I want you to start with what you told me about the picture on your wall, and then go into whatever you want to share about how you define feng shui.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful. Yeah, so as I had said earlier, part of my own process, walking the talk, um, I was on the phone with a friend and looking at my bedroom kind of through fresh eyes, and I discovered that I had this beautiful photograph of a single woman in a yoga pose with her back to me in this nature setting. This is a gorgeous photograph. And I had purchased it in the context of the marriage that had come apart, which was kind of interesting. It in a way, it grounded that part of me that maybe intuitively, subconsciously knew that at some point I was going to be single. I mean, I don't think I was deeply connected with it in that moment that I purchased it. I just loved the image so much. But it did anchor that period of time in which I was a single woman. But I thought, gosh, if I want to create a beautiful love relationship, having an image of a woman with her back to me probably isn't optimal. So I created a collage of couples, hugging, holding hands, tenderly kissing, just images and words. I wrote down and poured out those words, of course, in the journaling, but I also did that separately and tucked it in a drawer. And those became environmental anchors for the future that I wanted to live into. Because I know that our physical space tells us things. It's kind of like the out picture or a metaphor for what's going on inside ourselves. And so if there's anything kind of unresolved in our past, or something that we really aspire to for the future, it's in our physical space. It's in a drawer. It's maybe tucked away. Maybe there's a treasure that you had 10 years ago, but for whatever reason you couldn't connect with that treasure. And then, you know, working with me or somebody like me, there's that moment a question gets asked and the person goes, oh my gosh, you mean, and they remember this treasure in their physical space. But then I often guide them to, okay, and how is that a metaphor and an affirmation for the treasure inside of you, the beauty inside of you? So if it's this beautiful piece of artwork that for whatever reason you tucked in a drawer or in a closet, can you now bring it out and allow it to affirm who you are and that treasure that you have to give to the world and give to yourself and celebrate? Because sometimes some of us hide. we hide our beauty, we hide our treasures, we hide our gifts. We think we have to be perfect at something. And, you know, the thing is, we're multifaceted, we're multidimensional, we're complicated beings. You know, there's spirit, mind, heart, body. There's this whole body that we come in. And then there's this whole physical space that we're walking around in and touching things and sitting on chairs, et cetera, et cetera. And so the way I see Feng Shui is from that holistic perspective, that it's a dialogue, if you will, between your physical space, the belongings, they're talking to you in a way. I know that sounds kind of strange, but they have stories, right? Your artwork has a story behind it. Who you were with when you purchased it, you know, the photograph, what was happening when the photograph was taken, you know, was there a family argument right before and then everybody's looking happy, and what you remember is the argument. And it's kind of like, okay, well, maybe that photograph isn't the best image to affirm the love in your family, you know, and so maybe take another photo down the road in which people are generally joyous before, during, and after the photo, right?
I totally get that.
You know, like that's optimal, right? Instead of like, you know, I see it as holistic, an opportunity to declutter your life of obligations that maybe are sucking your soul. So we can clutter our calendars with all kinds of activities that feel like obligations. And I often invite people to let as many of those go as you possibly can, and really, you know, start to connect with that self-awareness of who are the people that you want to hang out with? Who are the people that you want to talk to? So what are the relationships look like, and how do you want to relate to your physical space? Are you somebody who likes a lot of windows, you need to be in nature, or do you love the city vibe? I mean, I had a client and friend who really thought that she had to have nature images up in her house. Like, for whatever reason, she thought, oh no, this is, you know, welcoming, et cetera, et cetera. And I was asking her, and I said, well, do you actually love nature? And she goes, well, I kind of do, kind of looking at it. And I said, well, what do you really love? And she said, New York City. Mm-hmm. And I said, oh my gosh, then get prints of the places in New York City that you love. And you know, she didn't live in New York City, but she loved New York City. And it just freed her. She gifted the nature prints to the people who would love one. I was blessed and fortunate to actually get a couple of those, and I'm still grateful, still have them in my physical space, because I love nature, images of nature. And she put up images of New York City, of the places that she loved, and she was so happy. Because here's the thing, you don't want to create your home for somebody else's tastes and preferences. It's your home, it's your space. And if you're sharing space, can you honor the tastes and preferences of the other people who live with you? And hopefully there's a little corner or a little nook or some space. If you're a couple and you have different tastes and preferences, can you create little nooks and spaces that are uniquely your expression? We often talk about, she might be Laura Ashley and he's Hunter Lodge. Well, how are these two going to work it out, right? But it's in that, in the common spaces to, really honor one another. It's kind of like the languages of love, right? You want to be able to honor somebody's way of expressing their love as well as their tastes and preferences. Somebody's a clutter bug and the other one's a neat freak. I run into that one too, right? And they're like, Laura, what do I do? And I'm like, create, have that dialogue, honor that you might be with an I spire, somebody who needs to see the belongings out on the table and the stacks of paper. And that's what inspires them. And, find those spaces that person can express that, and the spaces in your home where you can be the mind melder. The mind melder needs to put things away at the end of the day, but they also know, Mom, where's the blah, blah, blah? And they'll be like, it's the third shelf on the right-hand side next to the carton of whatever, right? And, that's your mind melder. So, and it's fun to kind of begin to play with this idea of we have different organizational styles, just like we have different ways of relating to our physical space. And to honor our different languages of love as well as our different ways of organizing things. And then there's the hidden treasure seekers, and I love those folks too. It's the
I'm probably one of those.
Right? It's the story that I was referring to earlier of they tuck things away, and then when they discover them, it's like, oh gosh, I had forgotten you. Here you are. Yay!
Well,
$20 bill in your pocket,
As you've been talking, I've been in my mind going through all the rooms in my house, and my husband's an old school biker, so we've got one wall with all kinds of Harley paraphernalia, and then we have a video business, and so we've got one wall with pictures and autographed musician pictures that musicians have autographed, and then I've got my sacred space. That's my kind of the free spirit, more spiritual space. So, and then we have a combined space. So, having someone like you come into a home and really open up that awareness would be really cool. Really eye-opening, I think, and kind of, I think, a different way to help someone heal and help someone move forward in life, because we do live in our space. And in order to declutter, and it doesn't necessarily mean, of course, you want to have things in the right cabinets and drawers, but it's also sounds like what you do is you declutter the mind through the visual of what's around. And when someone can, get rid of something that's not necessarily for the highest good anymore, or isn't healthy, or isn't really a part of their life, but it's still there, they're holding on. So what you do is give them an opportunity to forgive, to let go, to embrace, to replace, so that they can move on and they can honor themselves even more. And you're nodding your head like yes. And I thought of something really interesting, and I'd love your insight if you don't mind. We lived in North Carolina for a little bit, and we go hiking a lot, and picked up a stick, which I still have today. And I don't think I'll ever get rid of it, but I've never really understood what that stick represents. I haven't really been able to tap into that. We both love nature, but there's something about this stick. So I don't know. Have you ever come across, a stick being important in someone's life?
I think you're the first.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so to me, I guess it represents it could represent like a talking stick, maybe the connection that we have, that we understand each other and we hold each other, um, we give each other space when we have to share something that maybe in other relationships it could create drama or conflict. But for us, we do honor where each person is. So it could represent that, and our love of nature and love of the outdoors. So, yeah, so thanks. You had me think about that.
Oh, absolutely. And well, and you're pointing out the meaning, that beautiful meaning and the layered meaning of the stick as a talking stick, your love of nature, you're honoring the relationship and kind of listening to one another. Um, Reminds me of how important it is not to make assumptions about things that are in people's spaces. And that's why, as a practitioner, I go in with non-judgment and I ask those questions.
Mm.
No, because I can't, because from somebody else, they might say, stick, that just belongs out in the yard, right?
Right?
And
Yeah.
yet, when people have these belongings that have rich meaning and associations and memories, like I imagine you remember, that moment you picked it up,
Oh, I
right?
do.
Right,
Absolutely. I know
right.
which park I was in.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And it's like it's imbued with all that beauty, all that love, and all that honoring, right? So
Right.
you have a beautiful, empowering, loving relationship with that stick. And for you, you get to put it in a place in your home that honors that, because that's the message it's saying to you every time you see it. Even if you don't think of all the layers that you've just shared here, it's there, it's in your heart, and it inspires you. Why wouldn't you want it in your physical space? I mean, that's the permission that I'm granting people, is to
Mhm.
have things that inspire and empower you. And it's
Right.
not about what anyone else says, what the culture says you're supposed to have in your house and the magazines might say. It's really about connecting deeply with your heart. Your heart will guide you to the things that need to go, and it'll guide you to the things that get to stay, or that you would love to bring into the physical space or as an experience in your life.
Yeah. Well, it's
Uh,
interesting because I keep it. There's two places. We have this really nice porch that opens up to a lake. So we sit outside on the porch every morning and evening and meditate, and or just have an opening conversation for the day and then a closing conversation for the evening. So it goes between the table that's out there and the coffee table in the den, and I find myself always picking it up in some way, for whatever reason. I mean, sometimes I use it to massage my hands. Sometimes I just feel like I want to hold it. So, it's definitely imbued with our energy, and it's been with us for 10, 11 years. So it's a stick, but it's more than just a stick, and it's kind of
exactly.
cool. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So thank you for that, sharing that
Oh,
information.
absolutely.
Um, you say that there's 5 different types of clutter.
Mm.
Artifacts of unfinished business, the unloved ones, the needed but tumbled, um, just too much. I think a lot of us have just too much, right? And the wandering nomad, I'm always called the wandering. Well, I used to be the wandering entrepreneur, but I had, you know, a lot of things a lot of projects. I guess the wandering nomad is someone who has stacks and piles of projects, right? And unfinished business.
Yeah, well, it's kind of both of those combined.
Right. Yeah.
The way I see wandering nomads, it's the items that are out of place. So one of these things doesn't belong. It's like the Sesame Street song for those who watch Sesame Street. One of these things, not like the other. So what's the intention of the space? So my silly example is having a lawnmower in your kitchen, right? That's clearly a wandering nomad, because the kitchen's intention is to gather, to connect as people, to cook and prepare meals. So you want to have the belongings that match the intention of the kitchen. But interestingly enough, in bedrooms, I'll see exercise equipment along with maybe a desk that has paperwork and the bed and the person, and what wandering nomads then, the energy it creates is kind of this confusion. Right?
I was going to ask you, what does it mean if someone has a piece of exercise equipment in their bedroom?
In the bedroom, right? And because it's like, oh gosh, is it time to sleep or is it time to exercise?
Good question, right?
You know, like, right? And in some situations, people can't relocate that exercise equipment. So one of the ideas, and I suppose there are many, you know, a screen, you know, when it's not being used, or a covering to cover it up, so you're getting a good night's sleep and not thinking about how you didn't exercise for the last 3 days. Right.
Right. I'm gonna
jump out of bed and get on the exercise equipment. But yeah, each one of these types of clutter has a energy association that is usually a challenge to. So once you handle it, or in the case that you could relocate in that example, that exercise equipment to a room that's more active, the family room or another space in the house, that would be optimal. Yeah.
I'm gonna bet that you don't like TVs in bedrooms.
Correct. And if people do have a TV, I recommend that it be behind a closed cabinet, or I know now you can have a setting where you just have a beautiful image on the TV. But
right.
TVs are electronic, they're high voltage, and it's a lot of energy. And for people who are really sensitive and are struggling with a good night's sleep, I usually gently suggest that, hey, you know, maybe even for a week, you give it a try, or a month, see what it feels like in your bedroom to not have the TV. Yeah, we're all wired up now. And actually, I think there's neuroscience now that's saying the blue light, you know, keeps our brains awake. So people that are sleeping with their cell phones and going to bed with the laptop right next to them, it's not optimal for the brain and nervous system. And that's now, it's Feng Shui wisdom, but it's also, you know, this ancient 3,000-year-old wisdom, but it's now being backed up by neuroscience. In fact, there's a field now called neuroarchitecture, and so many of the recommendations are absolutely right in sync with the ancient masters' wisdom that they gleaned 3,000 years ago, which excites me, right?
Oh, sure.
Like, I know, you know, because there's a, you know, science geek in me who actually is fascinated by the brain and nervous system. Yeah, because another idea along those lines, I know it's not so much clutter, but kind of the placement of the main chair. So the placement of the bed, so you have a view of the door. You're not necessarily in the path of the door, but you have a view of the door. And it's because the nervous system can actually calm down, Eileen, and people can get a deep restorative night's rest. When we have our backs to a door, our bodies, if we don't have that deep self-awareness, our bodies go on high alert.
Really, kind of into fight or flight mode.
Exactly. So to shift you back into the parasympathetic nervous system, you wanna be able to see the door. Yeah.
Interesting. I guess that's a subconscious part of us that doesn't like the unknown.
Exactly. Well, and it goes back to, you know, well, it's that safety. of having safety, comfort, and flow in your physical space, and then your relationship to the physical space being one of safety. And, you know, I think right now people might be struggling a little bit with how do I feel safe in my own home and in my body, right?
Right, right, yes.
They may be feeling, you know, threatened by all kinds of things. So how can they
Yeah.
can kind of like,
Oh,
calm down and get in that alignment. So it's like the command position. If you think of a CEO or principal of a school, they never put their desk with their back to the door, right?
right,
You know,
right.
it's like they're
Exactly.
there, and it's an empowering place, and it's really good for the health of the human body.
Well,
Yeah.
and I think it gives the, you know, when it comes to people, when you face them, they can see you. You know, we react to people through facial expression, body language, tone of voice, and I'm actually 60% hearing loss. So if someone's behind me, I hear them, but I don't necessarily hear what they're saying. I read lips. So for me, it's better for them to be in front because now I can connect and communicate. And I think, you know, going back to the beginning of this conversation, you did not have a connection with that gentleman in the you know, in the dating scene, and so you had to find that connection in yourself in order to become connected with the gentleman you're with now. And of course, you being a Feng Shui practitioner, you enhance that and really solidify that connection through what's in your environment. So you must be like having just like this awesome, wonderful, amazing life now.
I do. I really do. I call it the bonus round, my bonus round of being alive, honestly. Yeah. It's,
Oh, that's
it's beautiful. And I continue to learn. I'll continue to see new things. I'm a lifelong learner. So, you know, the student and the teacher, they both exist inside of me. The curiosity.
right, right. Well, it's a continuous flow of ahas, right?
Yeah.
Continuous days of so when I say that, I want to ask when you connected with the person you're with now, what was that aha moment when you realized you had done enough self work to feel that self worth to bring that person in your life?
Oh, yeah. I guess I was open without being grippy.
Okay.
You know, like they have that expression, don't date when you're hungry, like don't go to the grocery store when you're hungry.
Mm, gotcha.
And what had resolved inside of me is I was no longer panting, yearning, craving
Mm,
of love because I had found it in here. And so that day that I walked into the in-person event where there were 8 gentlemen and 4 ladies, I had that energy of, you know, confidence and love, and I was not attached. So I wasn't hungry, if
like
you
you
will.
weren't needy. You weren't in
Yeah,
that
exactly,
needy
exactly.
space.
I was open without being needy, and it was interesting, Eileen. I don't. I'm trying to remember if it was in the conversation where he revealed that he read the poetry of Mary Oliver, which just like stunned me. That he also said, you know, how can I be of service?
Mm,
He literally asked me that question. And so I was really honest. I might have languaged it this way. I might have said, you know, I'm looking for a love relationship, or I'm interested in actually creating a love relationship. And at that juncture, he just said, well, I'm not looking, meaning he wasn't, how he meant that was he wasn't needy, yearning,
mhm.
expecting, demanding, coming in with an agenda. Right? And I just said, oh, well, that's fine. You know, I'll be your friend, and you know, I'll get to date a lot of gentlemen. And but as the conversation continued on that exact same date, he ended up buying my book. I got one out of the car because that's where my books were. But my first book that I published, which is Let Go Courageously and Live with Love. And he looked at me and he just said, well, I'm open to love. And I think at that juncture, with the information that he read, the poetry of Mary Oliver, the ease at which I experienced our conversations and the energy that he exuded, because I was so aware of what I was, how they're just people who exude love. You just stand by them and you feel better. That's how it is with Paul. That's his name. And I think I just knew.
Yeah.
I knew that in that moment. And of course, very quickly he knew, and, we had conversation, etc. And yeah, and here we are both in North
The
Carolina.
magic, and there was a spark, and the magic happened.
Yeah. I just, there's, I think there is something about that self-awareness. It like you were saying earlier, about noticing body language and able to stand in somebody's energy field. And it's more than the words that are coming out. It's like how they're being said, what's the energy? I could literally feel his heart. I felt my own, but I could feel his. And of course, part of it is studying Feng Shui and being just the person I am. I feel like I feel energy a lot. So I'm really aware of that body language and facial expressions and the energy that is wrapped around the words, if you will. And so, in those conversations, it was exciting, and we continue to say to one another, oh my gosh, there's more to learn, there's more to discover, but wow, have we been so fortunate. Our way of doing it is namaste to the universe, just this huge gratitude for the love that we continue to cultivate in ourselves and for one another. And we are different people.
Right.
Most definitely, like you said earlier, like he's a man and I'm a woman. Like right there. Right?
But I like to say, when a relationship like that comes together, it's co-conspired. It's like the universe has molded it, and it's just a matter of the two people coming together and allowing it. It's a surrender and allowing at the same time. And when that happens, it's beautiful. And that's kind of what happened with my husband and I. And it was not intentional, but I I I swear it was co-conspired. It was this magnetic pull, and no matter how much resistance there was a huge push behind it, and the rest, is history. So I'm thrilled to see somebody have that kind of connection with another person, because it makes life so much more peaceful and enjoyable, and you can really experience higher levels of that connection.
Oh, so true. Well, and I celebrate you and your husband.
Thank you.
It's so wonderful. And I know I have the moments where I want this for everyone who would want this. I want it for them, right?
Yes,
Oh
yeah.
my gosh.
Well, this has been awesome. Thank you, Laura. So where can people find you?
Oh, yeah, they can find me at cherishyourworld.com or loveyourlife.com. And if I could I think I might have mentioned it earlier, but I do have 3 books, Live Inspired, published with Sacred Stories Publishing, and it's available out there, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, independent bookstores, and then also Let Go Courageously, Live with Love, and then 100 Tips, the Cherish Your World gift book of 100 tips to enhance your home and life.
Oh,
And
wow.
if people are interested in any of these, they can go to my website. And then, on October 6th, they'll be Crappy to Happy, where this essay is one of many beautiful, wonderful, life-affirming essays in the book,
Yeah.
Crappy to Happy. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Laura. We'll definitely have to do this again. And I've really enjoyed our conversation. And you have a beautiful rest of your day.
Yeah, thank you so much, Eileen. It's just been a joy and a delight to connect with you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.